this is not a command performance, but I just thought that probably everybody here, I bet if you polled the group, they'd say that their favorite and the thing that probably got the most interested in Mellotrons was probably Epitaph, which was a tune that Ian wrote and I can tell you wrote. And it was just an awe-inspiring piece, and it still is.
Nah,
I mean, it's still it still isn't. I mean, a lot of music from that period sounds really dated. Get out your Vanilla Fudge albums if you want to hear dated. And I mean, that album is just, you know, a masterful piece of recording and playing. And I think the thing that impressed me most about King Crimson is they could do that live just as well. I mean, you've heard the live recordings, I'm sure. So when Ian agreed to come up, I thought immediately, I've got probably about enough questions to fill up an hour on how that was done. So, ladies and gentlemen, the person who brought the Mellotron to more people and caused more people to spend money than probably anybody in the creation of music, Ian McDonald.
What kind of car do you drive? I was going to say, you're probably wondering why I asked you all here today. I'm sure myself. But anyway, I don't know. I don't know what kind of questions you're going to want answered, but I know very little about these things. I think you probably all know much more about Mellotron than I do. So. But you know, who wants to fire away?
Oh, ask whose idea was it to use Mellotrons in King Crimson?
It is. It's probably mine because I wanted to bring something other than just the normal sort of group format to the group, other than guitar, bass, drums, and all that. And obviously I'd heard the Moody Blues records, and I just thought it'd be a good instrument. It just happened to be, at the right place at the right time, basically. And it's essentially the only game in town. There was no other way to get strings and that sort of thing. But, and it's basically left to me to cope with it.
So Ian, when you cut your next album, then the McDonald and Giles album, you didn't use the Mellotron, and why?
Well, when I left the group, I thought that I would never see one of these things again. It proved to be wrong, but no, I wanted a different sound. In fact, we used some real strings and brass and that sort of thing. And plus, I didn't have a Mellotron. When I left the group, I left this behind. So I didn't want it to sound like King Crimson, really. So
you used to carry it live a couple of times.
Yeah, we had two, maybe even three around. I mean, it was necessary because they broke down. There was rough treatment. That was part of the charm of the instrument. You never know whether it's actually going to work. I mean, you get it on stage, but getting it in and out of a transit van and all that sort of thing was pretty rough on the instrument. But yeah, so we had at least two at all times. Well, thanks.
Did you have the M400s, or did you have a Mark II?
Oh, Mark II, definitely. Yeah, the 400s hadn't been invented at that point. Yeah, we used to carry these around, and we even had the original bench, actually. But,
the real one?
Yeah, I don't know where it is now, but we had when we bought them, it came with the bench and everything.
So you had two benches?
Well, two, at least one.
Definitely one.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They're probably pretty
We
rare.
only know two in the entire world.
Are there any that you know of?
I've got one.
Yeah.
And the other one belongs to L100, the Church of Scientology. They've still got his Mark II, which is in pristine condition externally, and the bench. But it's only two in the world. Dynamo.
It's just been brainwashed, doesn't
it? It doesn't know what to do.
Please take his voice. You will believe me. Believe me. Follow me. Give me your money.
What did you
do before King Crimson?
Before King Crimson, well, pretty much immediately before then, I'd spent about 5 years in military band. I was in the army, British Army. Joined when I was just turned 16, actually. Joined in a boys service, and then I spent a year at Miller Hall, which is the Royal Military School of Music, and then managed to get out after about 5 years. I was just I hated it basically in the army, and I just knew that I didn't belong there, and I had other things to do.
How did you wind up in King Crimson after that?
That's sort of a convoluted story. It's fairly well known, but I mean there was a group called Giles and Fred, and I'm sure everyone's heard of, and it was in existence, and they were looking to do something else, expand or something like that, and I had teamed up with Judy Dybel, who was the original singer with Fairport Convention, and we put an ad in the famous Melody Maker, as everyone did in those days, and we got a call from Peter Giles, and we went down to see them, and joined Giles and Fripp essentially, and then Judy left, and then Peter left, and Greg came in, and that became King Crimson. And my friend Peter Sinfield came in as a lyric writer and general sort of good vibe type guy, you know, to keep us focused and all that sort of very important.
It's quite a jump, isn't it? From like Elephant Song to Epitaph, isn't it?
I guess so. Well, he I don't know. You'd have to ask him what the sort of progression there was, but you know, the sort of essential theme of the first album is pretty much all the same as that's basically sort of generation gap and us and them sort of thing. You know, all the lyrics basically about the same thing, and I think he had been writing songs of that nature before.
Can you tell us a bit about the production of that album? I mean, how many takes did it take to do some of the songs?
We had very little time, and the whole thing was made in about 8 days, essentially. After we'd been to 1 or 2 studios, and we had a producer, actually it was a Moody's producer, Tony Clark, come in. But then we decided to start again and do it ourselves. And basically we recorded the album in 8 days, including the mixing. Which,
it's good
8 days, people, you know, basically getting a drum sound in you know, these days. No, it was very, very quick. So we didn't have too much time to think and do retakes and retakes. In fact, Schizoid was done in 1 take, from beginning to end. It was the last thing. Epitaph, strangely enough, was the hardest. I can't remember why now exactly, but according to my diary at the time, it took us about 11 hours to actually get that track down. For some reason, I don't know why. Everything was done sort of essentially live, you know, with a couple. Maybe doubling up like the Mellotrons or the saxes on Schizoid, but essentially everything was done pretty much live. On 8 track, so I mean, for instance, the drums are on 2 tracks, so that you had to. There's no sort of mixing later on. It's just basically a stereo road tracks with the drums on, and 6 tracks left for vocals and Mellotrons. All the rest of it.
Yeah.
What was the problem with the original session? Was it just he didn't like the sound of it?
The original sessions were done at a different studios, Morgan Studios, which is a fine studio. I think we just wanted a larger room, which is, I think, so we went to Wessex, which had a larger room, which helped this recording of the Mellotron, because we used, I know you didn't ask me this question, but the way we recorded the Mellotron was to basically plug it into it was either Hiwatt or a Marshall stack, you know, like stack, and treat it like a guitar basically, and we mic'd it so about 20-25 feet away in this fairly large room, which I think was an unusual way of recording the Mellotron at that time, and the reason we didn't end up using Tony Clark as producer, but he had a technique of recording with the Moody's of bouncing, like a sound on sound thing. So you know, in order to gain tracks, you do a pre-mix every time you do an overdub. You were mixing down, and we didn't really like that idea. We'd rather have fewer tracks, but at least have